In this episode of the podcast, we take a look at the movie The Happytime Murders, directed by Brian Henson and written by Todd Berger, starring Melissa McCarthy, Elizabeth Banks, Maya Rudolph, Leslie David Parker, and Joel McHale. Welcome to He Said, She Said Movie Reviews. This is the podcast where a happily married couple with similar but different movie tastes take a quick look at the movies, helping you make the right decision before your next movie. I'm your host, Tim.
And I'm April. The Happytime Murders. Was it a happy time or not? You'll have to come back and find out.
So the only new trailer we saw with this movie was Mary, Queen of Scots. This is Mary Stuart's attempt to overthrow her cousin Elizabeth I, Queen of England, and finds her condemned to years of imprisonment before facing execution. What I find really interesting about this movie, this story has been told multiple times, but this is the very first time where Mary Stuart is the protagonist and Queen Elizabeth is the antagonist. It's definitely told from the Scots' point of view. And the other really interesting thing is it stars Margot Robbie as Queen Elizabeth. Yep. Tanya Harding herself.
And then the other star, she was from Lovely Bones and Brooklyn, right?
Yes, she was the star from Lovely Bones and Brooklyn. Okay, so we went and saw The Happytime Murders. This was directed by Brian Henson, the son of Jim Henson, who he's done The Muppet Christmas Carol, Muppet Treasure Island, and several other Muppet movies. And it was written by Todd Berger, who gave us some of the Kung Fu Panda shorts and The Disaster. It starred Melissa McCarthy, Elizabeth Banks, Maya Rudolph, Leslie David Baker, and Joel McHale. I'll let April go with this one.
Okay, well, I was dragged basically to this movie.
Kicking and screaming?
Yeah, well, I just wanted to see something else. You know, there was, Mile 22, Papillon, and that's fine. We'll get to them. I just was not really in the mood. However, you know, I have to say this movie, before we even get into it, very, very adult humor. It is not for kids. I laughed several times. But, you know, when you think back of inappropriate humor, you think about Santa, you think of Ted. You know, there's
this movie's definitely up there with those two.
Yeah. I mean, it's hilarious. And I am a huge Melissa McCarthy fan. So I did laugh a lot. That's the first thing I do want to say. Now we'll get into the movie. Go ahead, Tim.
I'm sorry. This movie, for me, I was the one who drug April kicking and screaming to this movie, of course. I was very excited about this movie. From the trailer, it looked like, wow, this could be a really good movie. Or, if you remember, go back and listen to the episode where we reviewed this trailer, I said it could be a dud. So, for me, this movie was a dud. I did not enjoy this movie at all. There was a few times that I chuckled during the movie. There was one scene where I actually laughed pretty hard. But other than that, a comedy is a movie. In most comedies, the audience has a lot to do with whether or not the movie's good. If you're in a crowded movie theater during a comedy and people around you are laughing, laughter is contagious. So you start laughing at every scene instead of chuckling at every scene. There was 5 other couples in this movie when we went and saw it, and nobody was really laughing.
Yeah. Do you want to get into the plot?
Yeah, it was a very simplistic plot. It's somebody's going around murdering some puppets from a TV show called The Happytime, a TV show. Puppets and humans live together. One of the things that this movie kind of did, it was kind of trying to make some political statements too, that puppets are second-class citizens and puppet lives matter and this kind of thing. And I thought that was a little inappropriate.
Really?
Yeah, it just didn't belong there. There's some really good movies out there right now about racial inequality and such, and it doesn't really need to be in a comedy of this kind of movie. That's all I'm saying about that.
No, I understand that. I felt bad for the puppets. I mean, every single second that people were treating them bad, picking on them, saying bad. I mean, it was just, I didn't like that. I will say that whoever designed the costumes, got all the little puppets.
Well, it's a Henson Productions movie, so
that was amazing.
These were the Muppets. I mean, not the Muppets from the Muppet Show, but they were the same genre of puppets. So.
Right. And I want to say that, again, Maya Rudolph is one of my favorite actresses. She did the best job in this movie as Bubbles. I've been thinking about that actually the day after the movie. She just, it was the most interesting character. She did really well.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
Yeah. Melissa McCarthy. There was two characters that pick on each other constantly. Sometimes that's funny. I talk about this a lot. Men pick. That's what they do. And sometimes it's funny when they're going back and forth, and then sometimes it gets old. So I'm just more of a very positive person. So I don't waste many words, if you will. But there were some times in this that it was very, very funny.
Yeah, maybe once or twice.
Right. And then it got old. And then it was funny when she would make a comment or go through something on her own. You know what I mean?
There are a lot of puppet jokes, like things like, you're a sock puppet and things like, I'm butchering it, but things like that. There was a funny scene where one of the murders was done by a pack of dogs. That scene was funny. I was chuckling during that scene. So.
Oh, yeah. Let's see. What else did I want to say?
And that was meant to be funny, by the way, the murder with the pack of dogs. If you see the movie, you'll get it. I think this is one of these movies where...
a little slow.
Well, it was a little slow, but I think if you were maybe sitting in your house in an altered state, that you might find this movie really funny. But,
well, if someone had a glass of wine
or 5 or 6.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it just wasn't, I don't know if it wasn't what I thought it was going to, I don't know what I thought, but some of it, there's no doubt inappropriate humor with adults is sometimes very hilarious. And that wasn't the issue at all. It was kind of the whole picture.
Let me ask you one question, April, and this is something that was going through my mind as I was watching this movie, because my mind was wandering quite a bit during this movie. If all the characters who were played by puppets had been replaced by humans, would it have been a good movie?
No.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't. Yeah, you replaced the puppets with humans, it still would have been a bad movie.
Yeah.
Sorry again, our dogs are making a lot of noise if you're hearing them come through on the podcast.
What's going on? Our disclaimer, still a new puppy. We're getting used to that. Okay, so anyway, the puppetry was great. The costumes, it was a different idea. It was a different idea for a movie. And I always appreciate that. That's in the end why I went. But I just think that the humor that was, I appreciated some of the humor, but again, it just, I just can't get that time back.
Yeah, I think we've wasted enough time on reviewing this movie. I'd like to go ahead and jump right into the scoring on it. And so why don't you tell me what you thought, April?
I'm going to give it a 2.
A 2?
2.5.
Okay, a 2.5 from April. As I've said before, we're 25 episodes in now. You've heard me say this before. Was I entertained? I was not entertained by this movie. I was bored out of my mind. I wanted to get up and walk out. I didn't. This was a solid 1 for me.
Oh, okay. Well, I do want to mention there's some great raunchy comedy in it, and there's some
think you already did.
Some fantastic one-liners. I know you agree to that.
Yes, there was.
All right. Well, we will see y'all at the movies, and we'll look forward to it.
If you haven't done so, please go out to hesaidshesaiedmovies.com/subscribe and subscribe to the podcast. It's free. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you at the movies.
See you at the movies.